Happy October, guys and girls and cream puffs. Today, we're heading back to Picture Hysteria to revisit the Carmilla gang. So I finally conned Keith into watching the Carmilla movie because we all know how much he despised the TV series, or the web series, should I say. So the Carmilla series was popular enough that at the end of season 3, they started a Kickstarter campaign to fund an independent movie, the Carmilla movie, very originally named. And that came out in 2017 and was made available on the internet in bundles. It came with a plethora of behind the scenes features. I, of course, bought it all the way back in 2017. It was actually a birthday present for me. And today, that's what we're going to be reviewing. So the movie takes place 5 years after the events of the final season, when they overthrew the Dean and defeated the god, and Carmilla became human again. And we revisit Laura and Carmilla. Laura is now a investigative journalist, although not a very Lois Lane one, not yet. And that's part of the storyline. While Carmilla is living off ye old vampire trust fund and just enjoying all the perks of being human. But things start to go awry when not only does Carmilla start to revert into being a vampire in a very, very funny sequence, I might add, but Laura starts to have some very creepy dreams that they soon discover are being sent by Carmilla's ex-Elle, who, if you watched our review of the original series, you will know that Elle was the original girl that Carmilla fell in love with back in the 1800s and was severely punished for trying to save. So Carmilla, Laura, LaFontaine, Perry, Kirsch, and Mel all travel back to Hysteria to find out what's going on and end up having to wrestle with Carmilla's past. So the movie is fun in that it does take advantage of the fact that we have a full set and we get a lot of fun with set design, with costumes, just a lot of things that they couldn't do with the web series. And it did receive a fairly positive reception. We have some new characters added to the mix. Fans of the show Wynonna Earp will recognize Dominic Provost-Chalkley, who plays Elle, the main villain. She was in that show. I know she's quite a fairly well-known Canadian actress. And so this would be Keith's first time watching the movie, so I'm going to turn it over to him. How did you enjoy the Carmilla film?
I would say I quite enjoyed it. I would say it's pretty solid, and it feels like a good add-on, a good follow-on to the TV show. And I think for the most part, like, one of my small nitpicks, which is at the very start anyway, which isn't like a massive deal, but I don't think we really needed the flashbacks or the catch-ups. And because, to be honest, I just think this is like so niche, then probably like 90% of the people watching it are probably people who know the web series anyway. So yeah, it's not quite the same as the Veronica Mars movie or like Firefly. It's like Serenity, they were like going into mainstream cinema. I feel that a little bit, like there was a few minutes that dragged at the beginning like that, but in general, no, I thought it did hit the ground running quite nicely. And like you said, they do make the most of it now being a movie. So that's something I appreciated. I agree that the sets were quite good and that, yeah, the costumes were well done. And I think naturally, because you can be a bit more cinematic. So I think there was some like spooky moments, some decent horror style moments. I've never seen that show, Wynonna Earp. I have heard good things about.
Yeah, I haven't. I've heard really good things, and I've heard that people who like Buffy would like Wynonna Earp. It has that kind of feel to it, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I did think that actress was very strong. I thought she was a pretty solid villain. It had like a presence to her. And another thing which I thought was like refreshing, didn't really drag too much like the drama with Laura and with Carmilla, because I was wondering, like, I think when that stuff started up, I was a bit like, okay, are they going to try and force drama just for the sake of it? And in the end, it wasn't a massive deal, and it was like, okay, they got to the ball quite quickly, and you got the group of friends back together quite quickly, and things then just started happening like naturally. So Yeah, no, it's pretty solid. Like, I think I can imagine how this would be quite a good one for fans, like quite a solid like sequel to the web series. And it wasn't as entertaining as the web series. Like, it wasn't as sharp with the humor or some of the dialogue. I think there are some choice pop culture references. I did enjoy the Lizzie Border reference, and that's something which at the time would have been quite fresh, because that was in the kind of pop culture at that time, because I know you had that mini series on her, and you had one or
Yes,
two other
yes.
things. So it's around about that time. I also enjoyed the Nightmare on Elm Street reference. That was good
Yeah.
near the end of the film. But yeah, maybe they could have done with a few more of those, or like overall it could have been a little bit sharper with the wit and the dialogue. But yeah, overall I'm pretty pleased with it. I had a
Yeah,
solid time.
it had a it had a good reaction when it first came out. And I, for the most part, do really enjoy this film. I obviously love this miniseries. I loved Carmilla. I remember binging season 1 all in one day. And when this film came out, I remember what I really, really loved about it is obviously the web series couldn't go too far into the vampire side of things because of the format that it was in. So what I really liked in this one is that we got glimpses of that gothic horror. Excuse me. So, the mansion, the creepy dreams, the old timey Victorian, dresses. I loved that. I and everyone in the fandom all loved the fact that Carmilla finally has fangs in this movie.
Yeah.
Absolutely on board with that. And we got a couple of really good, like, Carmilla biting Laura scenes, which were really fun. I also really love those little flashbacks we see of Carmilla going into the coffin full of blood. It really emphasizes the horror that's in her past. And I love that we also get to see a little bit of Maddie again, because Maddie is always great
Yeah,
value.
she's really good.
And yeah, and there were some things that they amped up for this. So, for example, we get a nice little remix of the cover song, and they
Yeah.
do this beautiful animation for the titles, which was actually done by a fan. So
Oh, good.
after season 1 came out, there was a fan who animated the final battle of season 1, and so when the movie came out, the producers reached out to this fan and asked them if they could make the title sequence. So I thought that was
Yeah,
very
that's really
cool.
good. Yeah,
A
definitely.
little bit of fan involvement. Now, I will say for me, and we're going to get a little bit into the story here. So basically, once they go to Styria, they discover that Carmilla went to this supernatural therapist. And during this therapy session, she accidentally conjured up all of her old victims, all of the girls who were fed to the light by her mother. And one of those girls happens to be Elle. And we find out that Elle basically wants to use the energy of the ghosts and Carmilla's human life to become human again. Now, I will admit, when I first saw the movie, I was the tiniest bit disappointed with Elle's character, because I really wanted some really in-depth stuff with Carmilla and Elle. I wanted Elle to, kind of confront Carmilla. I wanted to kind of dive into their relationship a bit. But I feel that, and other fans have felt this too, that the writers were a little too scared off the Holstein shippers. So they're the ones, that's Laura and Carmilla. And that ship became so that they were a little scared of stirring the boat and of rocking the boat rather, and showing Carmilla with her ex-lover, because I do feel that some of the stuff with Elle was a little shallow. Like, it could have gone a little
Yeah.
bit deeper, it could have been a little bit more intense. And I also think that the stakes were not high enough. Like, basically, we find out that in order for the ghosts to move on, and in order to defeat Elle, Carmilla must give up her human life, which essentially just means that she's going to turn back into a vampire. But the thing is, like, in this world, being a vampire is not that big a deal. Like, we know that Danny has become a vampire rights activist, which isn't that just the perfect thing for Danny to become?
Makes
That
sense.
is so in tune with her character. Brilliant. And LaFontaine and Perry have even like developed like this blood substitute drink that almost like True Blood. It made me think of the True Blood series,
Sure.
and stuff like that. So the fact that Laura gets so upset over Carmilla having to give up her human life and is so willing to like let these ghosts like suffer and die came across to me as a little bit like that's a bit selfish. But that's really my only complaint with this movie, because I do think that it was done as like a love letter to the fans, and you can really feel that. And you can feel that, you know, they all really loved being on this set, and they obviously loved having the freedom of, you know, a full set to move around in. And I also think that the characters come back and they're still like fantastic, you know, like Kirsch is still Kirsch, and LaFontaine and Perry are still, you know, have that back and forth dynamic between them. And I think that all of the actors really captured like the essence of their characters again, even though we were in a very different setting. So yeah, for me, I did like it, but I did have a few disappointments. And I think because I was so invested in Carmilla and Elle, I was just a bit disappointed that we didn't get that much. So what did you think of the story? Did you think it was punchy enough?
At times, but yeah, I think I can see what you mean. Like, probably, I think maybe it resolves itself a bit too easily, and like you said, maybe they could have done a bit more with it, went a little bit further, and just the stakes could have been a bit higher. That's probably the best way to say it. A little bit naive, like the way they trusted the main villain. That was
Yeah,
definitely a
yeah.
thing. And they were definitely aware of, okay, she could turn out to be a villain, and they were making plans, but at the same time they seem to be drawn in a little bit too easy. That's probably one of my takeaways.
Yeah, no, I agree. But you know, I do think there's a lot of fun to be had, and I think that, you know, some of the sequences are really fun. Like I particularly love how at first you have the sequence of Laura saying Carmilla is enjoying all of these human things, and you see her in the sun, you see her like eating pastries, and then you see her like coming up to Laura and trying to seduce her. And then you see the same montage, but when she's turning into a vampire. So all of a sudden she's shrinking away from the sun. She accidentally bites Laura when she's trying to seduce her. There's that great shot of her walking down the road eating a squirrel, and then just, you know, walking off. So I think that's like a really fun angle. I personally love all of the gothic horror stuff done. You know, like that. They really had a lot
Yeah,
of fun with the
that was
settings.
good.
The movie, they were releasing like little photos and stuff, so we were getting glimpses into like what we were
Sure.
going to see. And I remember they released one with like Elise with her hair done up in like an old timey way, and we all went, "Oh my god, we're going to get flashbacks!" And you know, we got really excited. And I think with Carmilla as a whole, that was one of the things that made it so special. And I mentioned this in my revisiting Carmilla video, is that the cast got so involved and they got so close to the fans and to the fandom. And you know, the movie, it wasn't just a movie, it was a whole experience. We were getting tidbits and we were getting behind the scenes features. And like I said, when you downloaded the bundles, I got so many behind the scenes features. And I think that really helped to keep the fandom going. And obviously the show has to be good, and it is, but I do think that their continual involvement with the fandom is really what elevated just Carmilla as an experience. You know, it was a really fun few years to kind of be in that fandom and to see, you know, people just respond so well to this TV show. And it was really nice also to see, you know, the LGBTQ community respond to this show, because it is such a
Yeah.
queer show, and I think that's so important, you know, for representation. And I just really love how in this series, and even in the movie as well, it's not a big thing, their queerness, you know, like Laura just happens to be a lesbian. It's not made a big deal of. It's just we live in this
Yeah,
world where,
definitely.
yeah, it can just be accepted. So I did miss Danny in this film, but Sharon Bell was not available for filming, so that's why
Right,
she's
okay.
only very briefly there. But I think
Yeah,
Mel
that's
makes a good substitute, because Mel did get a bit of character development in season 3, and I think in this one in particular, she's much better than she was when she first turned up.
no surprise then the leads have lost none of their chemistry. Like, the chemistry is right
I know,
there,
they're
and
fantastic.
it's straight out the gate, and like you said, everything feels quite natural with the group in general, and it's just for a movie like this, especially if you're not sure if this is going to be a one-off, or there's going to be a sequel. It just feels like a good plot for them to do as a one-off movie, where it's got quite a simple structure and it gets into it quite fast, and they don't try and overcomplicate it with too many things.
No. And I liked that. And it's a good runtime too. I think it's only like an hour and 35 minutes or something like that. So they don't try to overpack it. They don't try to stretch it out. It's really quite good. Now, tell me you watched to the end of the credits.
I did, yeah. Because that's something I was going to ask you about. Is that something where they were hoping for a sequel and it didn't happen, or like, yeah?
I think it was one of those things where they decided to put it in just on the off chance that something did happen. So I don't think it was so much that they were planning for a sequel, that they thought they would get a sequel. I think they just left that in there just to leave the door open in case it wanted to be revisited. Because yeah, that final scene with Maddie looking fantastic as always. Where did she get that blazer from in the afterlife? It's like, girl, shopping well in hell. And yeah, no, that was a great little hook. And because I remember when I was watching it, I was like, oh damn it, I should message Keith to tell him to watch to the end of the credits. But then I thought, no, he'll know to do that, because he did that with season 2 and 3.
Yeah. Okay, I didn't know if that was something which like pissed fans off a little bit, because then it wasn't like you didn't get a follow through. Or
no. Any other thoughts that you had scribbled down? Anything else that came to mind while you were watching this?
No, I think that's mostly it. Like, I would say the effects were pretty solid overall for all it was, and it definitely, like you said, I think they used the most of the set, and like you could tell this was more high budget, and I think that did like pay off. As I said, there were some good lines of dialogue, like weapons are the best weapons. That's one that stands out to me. That's a good line.
Mel with her crossbow.
Yeah,
Call it Gertrude.
Yeah. So there are some good lines. As I said, overall, maybe there could have been more of those, but there were definitely some good dialogue still.
One of my favorite lines from Mel is one that I absolutely love, is when Kirsch is sneaking around the kitchen and she's just like, Kirsch, if your extreme hunger leads me into some kind of black girl dies first bullshit, I am going to come back from the dead and haunt your bar fridge. Like, yeah. Oh, yeah. I will say, I did feel that little like flirtation / romance between Mel and one of the ghosts was a little bit like not needed. Like, I was like, we could have like taken that time and dedicated it a little bit more to like.
Yeah, true.
That, I mean, it was cute, but it didn't really add anything. So I remember thinking that we could have done without that. Sounds like you enjoyed it, which I'm very, very glad. So I guess we've just arrived at the end. What would you give this out of 10?
Okay, well, I think I'll have to go a little bit lower than the series, because I did give the series a 7, and that's on average, so that's a pretty good rating considering it's an average of 3 series. But I'll only go a bit lower because I think overall it is quite a satisfying like follow-up. So I'll go 6.5.
Nice. I think that's fair, and especially because this is also your first time viewing like the series and the movie. Maybe later on we can revisit it, and then once you get to know the characters better. But I would probably just go for a 7.5 because I'm with you. I don't think it's as sharp as the series, and I think that's probably because they were moving from one medium to another. So with the series, really all they had was the dialogue, so it had to be punchy, it had to be on point. Whereas when you've got a movie set, you can maybe concentrate on some other things. But yeah, I'd go 7.5 because I think it was fun. I think the characters are really fun. Like I keep saying, I love the gothic vibes. I love that we can get a little bit more vampire-y with this, fangs and biting and all of that stuff that I love in my vampire fiction. But I do think that the story is a little bit shallow, and I do think that they could have gone a bit more into Elle and Carmilla and made the stakes a little bit higher. And I think if they'd done that, then that would have brought the movie up for me. But 7.5 for me, I still think it's a really fun movie to watch, and it's still the Carmilla universe, so obviously I'm going to love it.
Yeah, sure. And just a quick question to you, like, do you think they might bring it back for another movie or something at some point, or do you think
I would love that, but I think we might be done. And I think
Yeah,
that was really cemented for me when the 10-year anniversary went past and
sure.
the channel didn't do anything. Nat and Elise on Instagram did a little live Instagram like post for the Carmilla anniversary. And I know that Nat, who plays Carmilla, she hosted a watch party, but there was
Yeah,
nothing
that's
on the official channel and there was nothing from the official creators. So I think Carmilla might officially be done. But you know what? Given that it started as this tiny little web series and we went on to have 4 seasons and a movie and a novelization of the series, I think we did pretty good.
yeah,
I think this, and I think they ended it pretty strongly with the movie.
yeah. Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Okay. Well, that's cool. So, thanks for joining us today, guys. If you've seen the movie, let us know your thoughts in the comments below. I'll post the link to the movie in the description because it is on
Nice.
YouTube for free. And
Yeah.
I know it used to be on Prime, but I think they took it off. But it is on YouTube for free. So I'll post the description if you haven't seen us. If you haven't seen the movie, let us know, as I said, what you think of it. Also, if you've seen both the web series and the movie, let us know which one is your favorite of the two and how you would compare them. And also tell us what you've been watching this October as well. But Rachel, if you want to promote your channel.
Guys, you can follow me, Rachel McDonald, movies on TV shows and media. I do have a Carmilla movie on there. If you're interested, a video, if you're interested in a little crash course on the series, go and check that out. And my Tumblr and my Instagram are also posted through my YouTube. So come and follow me everywhere.
Okay, thanks, guys. Keep watching horror movies, and we'll see you again soon. Goodbye.